Number 11, SMU going to number 6, Penn State in the very first Saturday college football playoff game. Look, Penn State, I know Fox is not involved in these college football playoff TV negotiations, but maybe they are. Here's a big noon kickoff for you. 12 p.m. Eastern on TNT. Nittany Lions, 8.5-point favorites in State College. It is slated to be some good old northeastern December weather, which we love to see. A team from the DFW coming up to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions in this type of weather and in this type of matchup. The first thing that I want to cover, the first thing that I want to talk about and break down is SMU's offense and what Penn State needs to do to be able to slow down this Mustang offense. Now, SMU, one word that really comes to mind when I look at this Mustangs offense is balanced. And they're balanced in more ways than one. They are 20th in the country in total offense, averaging 443 yards per game. Quarterback Kevin Jennings, over 3,000 yards passing this season, 22 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. But we talk about balance, throw game to run game. Running back Brashard Smith, over 1,200 yards this season and 14 touchdowns on the ground. So they've got a pass versus run balance. But now let's talk a little bit more about this SMU pass game. They have balance all across the amount of guys that can catch the football. There's not just one target. There's a bunch of targets that Kevin Jennings can throw to. They have no receivers over 600 yards this season. A lot of guys between 300 and 600. 6 wide receivers or tight ends have between 330 yards and 599 yards receiving on the season. 5 pass catchers have either 4 or 5 touchdown grabs this season. Some guys you're looking at: Roderick Daniels, 599 and 3 scores. Keyshawn Smith, 512 yards and 5 scores this season. Jordan Hudson, 382 yards and 5 scores. You look at Moochie Dixon, 378 yards and a touchdown. He's averaging almost 19 yards per catch. That leads the team. Former Michigan tight end Matthew Hibner, 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Penn State secondary is going to be stretched across the formation. What happens when we looked at the Oregon game last week? Their corners did a very good job. Evan Stewart didn't get anything. Trayshawn Holden got very little, but they were attacked in the middle of the field when Tez Johnson was able to get the ball in space, and then he was able to zigzag and he was able to create. I want to make this very clear. SMU does not have a Tez Johnson. Nobody has someone as lightning quick as a Tez Johnson coming out of the slot. I think he's the best slot receiver out there in all of college football. So I want to make that perfectly clear. But the point I'm trying to make is when you get past those 2 corners, what happens to the Penn State secondary when they spread you across with 3, 4, maybe 5 possible pass catchers? And SMU and their running backs, including Brashard Smith, have done a good job at catching the football out of the backfield as well. So keep that certainly in mind as well. So we'll see if Penn State is able to match up in those situations against the SMU Mustangs. And it's fairly obvious, right, what Penn State is going to do. They're going to get after it with Abdul Carter. They're going to get after it with Denai Dennis Sutton, with Zane Durant, with this group up front. Now, SMU has done a pretty good job in pass protection this season, okay? So I think they've only allowed 15 sacks this year, but I'm going to get this a little bit later. They haven't seen a defensive front like Penn State. There is not an Abdul Carter in the ACC. There's not a Denai Dennis Sutton. There's not a defensive line like this. So this is going to be a new challenge. It is going to be a different challenge for the SMU offensive line. But here's the thing about the pressure for Penn State that we need to keep in mind. Kevin Jennings can scoot. He can evade the rush. He's certainly got some mobility. So you need to be controlled and you need to be calculated in your pressures, and you need to be able to keep the edge. You need to be able to keep contained while still doing what you do and bring that great pass rush that Penn State has, because if he's able to break contain Jennings and he's able to get outside of the pocket, create more opportunities down the field, Then in those second chance, it's playground football, right? It's create, it's find the opening, it's all that. And that's not where Penn State wants to live. Penn State wants to be able to keep the edge, and they want to be able to win those battles against the SMU offensive tackles time after time after time after time. They want to force SMU to bring more resources into pass protection and then have more limited matchups, certainly down the field as well. For Penn State, keep this offense humming. Penn State had their best offensive outing of the season against a really good Oregon defense in the Big Ten championship game. We're looking at 297 yards on the ground, 523 yards of total offense for the Nittany Lions. So you got to keep that momentum going. Penn State looked really good offensively against the Oregon Ducks. Now, when you're facing this SMU defense, here are some things to keep in mind. SMU is much better defending the run than they are defending the pass. Here's some stats for you. Excuse me. The Mustangs are fourth in FBS against the run. Only one team, the Boston College Eagles, averaged more than 5 yards per carry against the Ponies this year. SMU, 91st in the country against the pass. Boy, I kind of watch SMU. I look at that, and I hear that, and I think 44 in blue and white is going to have a huge day. Will he put up the type of numbers that he put up against the USC Trojans earlier this season? Well, I'm not so sure about that. That was an all-time, that was a crazy performance. That was an all-time type of performance, but he could get numbers certainly near there. I think the game plan for Andy Kotelnicki is going to be similar to what it was against Oregon. I think they're going to look to 44 early on to be able to create those plays down the field. And I also want to say this about Tyler Warren. With Bo Prabula transferring out of the program, right, that package maybe isn't there anymore. I think you're going to see more of Tyler Warren taking snaps from the shotgun to kind of replace what Bo Prabula had in those specific packages for the Penn State Nittany Lions as well. But like I was saying, I think that they're going to approach this in a similar way that they did against Oregon. Let's get this throw game going. Let's get Tyler Warren going, and let's try to take advantage of those matchups. But eventually, if that happens, I think SMU is going to shade their defense in the direction of Tyler Warren. They're going to double team him. They're going to do whatever they need to do to be able to contain him. And just like in the Penn State game, that's when you get one-on-one matchups with Amari Evans. That's when you get one-on-one matchups with Harrison Wallace. And that's when Drew Allar makes big-time throws to those types of guys. And also watch out for those running backs coming out of the backfield. I think that could be a big-time advantage for Penn State in this specific game. I think that there's yards to be had. There is production to be had for Penn State to be able to throw the ball. And then I think the run lanes are going to be able to open up for Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. You know, just overall, cats versus horses, lions versus Mustangs, Penn State's a different animal. Like, you look at SMU's schedule this season, the closest that SMU has had to a Penn State type of team were the Clemson Tigers, who lost 3 games, and the BYU Cougars. And all due respect to the Cougs, all due respect to Dabo and the Clemson Tigers, those teams aren't Penn State. They don't have the type of edge pressure and edge talent that Penn State has. They don't have the type of size up front. They don't have the type of quarterback that you can keep on going down the list. Penn State is just a different type of team coming up to the north. Coming up into this type of weather, there was snow blanketed across Beaver Stadium. It was a beautiful sight. We've been seeing this for years in the playoffs, in the National Football League, right? All the snowstorms in Buffalo. And look, I'm a fan of the Green Bay Packers. We've had great snow games and weather games over the year, and now having a team from the DFW from the South coming up to a place like State College, I think, and then of course the crowd is going to be lit in this game. I just think too many matchups are in favor of the Penn State Nittany Lions, which leads me to my prediction. I've got Penn State putting up 31 on this SMU defense. SMU's defense has played well this season, but like I said, I think Penn State is just a different animal. Penn State 31, SMU 17, the final score. That would punch the ticket for Penn State to move on to New Year's Eve in the Fiesta Bowl to take on the Boise State Broncos.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.